he said, really our goal is to be like candles that light candles. When you have a light and you light someone else's candle, there's no loss, there's just gain. And just be your best self in service to that, and then just give that away. And it's interesting listening to your podcast. You guys talk about ripples a lot, and that was always one of my personal expressions kind of mantras, was dropping pebbles and making ripples. We all have these contributions, and if you're given the strength and the belief in yourself, all you have to do is let that contribution go. And then there's a point of impact, just like a pebble hitting a pond, and then you just have faith that the ripples spread in sometimes wonderful ways.
Welcome to the Kindness Factor podcast, sharing life-changing personal stories of the transformational impact of deep kindness. Hosted by
Dr. Ilya, the happiness doctor,
and Randy McNeely, the kindness giver. Thank you for joining us. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be. I'm Randy McNeely, the kindness giver. I'm thrilled to be here with my wonderful co-host, Dr. Ilya Gogoris, the happiness doctor. He's back from sunny California and hanging out in kind of sunny Colorado. And we are just thrilled today to have the opportunity to welcome into our studio Ken Caputo. He is just an amazing guy from Connecticut. And I'm going to let Ilya share a little bit of information about Ken with you, and then we'll jump right in and he can fill in the gaps.
Thank you for the introduction, my good friend Randy, and thank you, Ken, from I hope that's sunny Connecticut. We'll find out soon. So, okay, so I'm going to put my glasses on. Ken Caputo, as a business owner, teacher, and entrepreneur, Ken has been creating and implementing unique ways to positively impact communities for over 30 years, beginning as a martial arts school owner and operator that served as a place of learning and growth for both children and adults. Ken has founded and launched many businesses throughout the years. Ken now works with a growing number of businesses, teachers, coaches, and entrepreneurs to help them energize their unique contributions in relationships with their teams. His coaching, consulting, and workshops bring together his decades of experience as a martial artist and business owner to help entrepreneurs expand the impact of their work. Ken, welcome to our show.
Happy to be here.
Now, Ken, I just got to throw out there a few things. I mean, because I've been listening to that. He's a martial artist. He also works with businesses, helping them to create powerful cultures and things like that. Tell me, how does a martial art, how can a martial artist be kind? now that's a loaded question. Not that they can't. Good, but you sit and you think of martial arts, you think of all the movies with the karate and everybody, there's always some kind of fighting or battle or combating going on. So tell me, is there an experience that you have had, or experiences that you've had, in which kindness has impacted how you run your businesses, and how you've implemented that into your martial arts work?
Oh, every day. And it is kind of interesting, because for people that don't have any experience other than like the media and television and that kind of stuff, you wouldn't know. But the majority of people, especially that do it professionally, it's all about just being your best self, and integrating, just, training yourself physically, spiritually, and mentally, so that you can be a force for good. You can be a protector. And that's actually what appealed to me at first, was just, back in the early 90s, going into starting to train for myself and seeing all of these smiling children who were, learning to believe in themselves and learning to tap into that sense of power. And when they do that, there's a sense of safety, and how much easier it is to be kind when you feel safe, when you feel internally strong and resilient. It's so much easier to weather the difficulties of other people maybe not being in a kind place, and you can come from a position of kindness. So I just got hooked by the whole idea of investing your life in helping people grow as humans, and the martial arts just served as a fun and interesting vehicle to deliver on that. And I kind of evolved beyond that through the decades, but that was where it all started.
Well, so
Martial arts typically has a certain philosophy, does it not?
Yes. Yeah. Most of them do. I come from a background of a blended art called Shaolin Kempo. My teacher was actually a spiritual counselor. He was, he had studied all kinds of philosophies and wisdom traditions like Taoism and Buddhism, shamanism. And the whole thing was, he said, really our goal is to be like candles that light candles. When you have a light and you light someone else's candle, there's no loss, there's just gain. And just be your best self in service to that, and then just give that away. And it's interesting listening to your podcast. You guys talk about ripples a lot. And that was always one of my personal expressions kind of mantras, was dropping pebbles and making ripples. We all have these contributions. And if you're given the strength and the belief in yourself, all you have to do is let that contribution go. And then there's a point of impact, just like a pebble hitting a pond. And then you just have faith that the ripples spread in sometimes wonderful ways.
Isn't there a certain level of, I guess you would say respect, just respect for oneself, respect for your opponent, respect for the art itself? And out of that respect, there seems to be a certain kindness that is associated with it. Like this isn't
Yeah.
about beating somebody else up, but that's not the farthest thing actually from the art. It's really about safety. It's really about your inner strength and your inner core. But there's a certain, what I've seen anyways, and I've had nephews who wear black belt. There's a certain just respect and kindness to the whole environment, I would say.
There really is. Yeah, and it's such an interesting thing. The most powerful martial artists that I've worked with tend to be the quickest ones to smile. They're gentle in their demeanor, and they're you would never know. They don't have anything to prove to anyone. They're just out there just they're just training, and yes, maybe you'll need to protect yourself at some point. Those skills are there, but honestly, most of the people that I've trained through the years, the skill they've used the most is falling and not getting hurt. Just training that skill. That's more practical and realistic for our day-to-day lives. So, but you do have the self-defense aspect, of course, but that was almost a secondary focus, especially in the way that we would teach, and just based on the needs of our community and the interest of the people who would come to us.
well, it's interesting, because I asked that question at the beginning because it's so different in real life as to how martial arts actually work compared to what you see in the media. They do all those things. You see all the different battles and other things like that. It's a purely for an entertainment value. When in reality, like you've been discussing, it's not about that. It's not about going out and being combative and looking for opportunities to whack people or whatever. It's about self-discipline. It's about having respect for yourself and respect for the other people that that are in part of your group. And it's about, yes, being able to defend yourself if you need to, but you're not out there looking for offensive reasons to use it. It's really about gaining self-mastery, right? Am I off the mark or?
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And as you do that, it gives you the ability to choose how to respond and become skillful in that instead of just being in reaction. And it's an interesting thing, like a kindness story. One of the techniques, I guess you could call it, that we teach is something called smiling eyes. And it's the idea is just when you make eye contact with someone, smile with your eyes about 10% more than they're smiling at you. And not too much, because you don't want to be the annoying cheery person if someone's having a difficult day, but just give back a little bit more than you receive. And it's always so interesting how that magnifies. And that's something that we would share, especially with students, like school age students. We have a program called Go Beyond the Grades, and it's about learning more the social elements of being, just being able to make friends, connect with your teachers, all that kind of stuff. So, we had a freshman in high school, this boy who came to me, and he said, I think I saved someone's life yesterday. And that caught our attention. I was like, okay, so tell me about what happened. And he said the day before he was just practicing that smiling eyes just as he went through his day. And at the end of the day, he was getting on the bus, and there was another boy who's just on his bus route, and he smiled at him. And this was not someone that he knew very well. He was a couple years older than him. And the next morning, this boy that he had smiled at came to him and said, "Hey, I need to thank you." And this boy who was our student, he's like, "What are you thanking me for?" He actually felt a little nervous because he wasn't sure what this was about. And this boy said, "I was having a very difficult time." And he said, "I was considering going home and ending things." And and when I got home, I just kept thinking about how you just smiled at me and how that made me feel. I couldn't get it out of my head. And and I chose not to do anything that I'd regret. And we ended up, there was some follow-up with that, and we made sure that this boy, talked to counselors, and he got help and support from his parents. And I don't even know his name, but I know that that one little moment, just that one choice to just offer something so simple probably changed the entire trajectory of this other boy's life. So you never know.
You never know. You
That
never
is
know.
so powerful, and it really is the example of you never know when some simple little act can change somebody's trajectory, can change somebody's life, can save a life, just like you just said.
Yep.
It's interesting. Our last guest, a lady named Jody Orgill Brown, was talking about how every day, every time we interact with somebody, if we can do it with kindness, and we have the opportunity to change somebody's life. Every time we interact with somebody, we have that opportunity simply by the way that we treat them. And that young man learned that lesson, and I can guarantee you he'll never forget that. And the young man that he smiled at will never forget that smile. It will always be in his heart.
Yeah, I agree.
I wonder what we know what the impact was on the boy that received the smile, because obviously it saved his life. He didn't take his own life that night. What was the impact on your boy that was on your team that gave the smile? I'm very curious about him. How did it impact him?
So it was kind of interesting because it it really resonated with him, and but in not in any, at least that we saw in the years that followed, like this really life-changing way. He just chose to be the type of person who would offer a smile more often. He chose to be a kinder person, I think, was the main thing. And a lot of times I think that's really the thing that has always struck me. If you give people models and you give them environments where it's easier for them to tap into those part of themselves, it just becomes a part of who they are. And so I think for him, it was nothing special. And I've always found that the most amazing people, they're kind of almost unaware of how special it is because they're just being who they choose to be in the world. So, but I do know that he went on, like he had very rarely had social issues or anything like that. He was well liked and he was a contributor. He would offer to be someone who could support and help other people, even in just simple and little ways, who were in need.
And oftentimes those people actually are very humble and they don't make a big deal out of it. And they're like, well, anybody would have done the same thing, which is not true, actually. Not everybody would have done the same thing, but they did. And because they did, it saved somebody's life. So that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that story, Ken.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, so how does, can you share with us, have you had your own experience where your life has been touched? You said you've had mentors, you've had other people that impacted you and inspired you to move on and do the things that you're doing now. What kind of experiences have you? Can you point to any experiences, or look back and think of anything that touched your heart, changed your life, inspired you to carry on and do the things that you're doing now?
I think it's really been, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's been so many. And I think the thing that's always really fueled me though is seeing other people just unfold into the humans they're capable of being. And I'm really just kind of always, that's like my cause that I feel just so compelled to champion, is just creating environments where you just give people an opportunity to be their best selves and then watch what happens. And and I think that's really from early on, just watching, as I started building businesses and creating environments where people could come in and do work that mattered to them, meaningful work.
Mm.
and then watch them turn into these incredible adults, just doing amazing things, and then just going on with their lives. And you hear back from them, and they're just out there being awesome at who they are. And I think that's always what struck me over and over again was if you just, if you create an environment where people can connect to other people in a meaningful way, interesting things happen. And then they start modeling it for each other, and they start feeding off of each other, and it just amplifies and grows. So yeah, so I think that's the big thing for me is just the stories of other people like this boy. That's always what's resonated most deeply with me.
Hello, I'm Randy McNeely, co-host of the Kindness Factor podcast and co-creator of the Kindness Factor Human Interest series. Thank you so much for listening. We sincerely appreciate you. So here's the question for you. Do the guests and the messages we're sharing resonate with you? If so, we'd like to invite you to join us in our efforts to spread love through kindness around the world. You can do so simply by visiting our Buzzsprout subscription page at the link listed in the description and taking out a monthly subscription. You can pay up to $10 per month. Your support will enable us to continue to deliver great content and to take our message to a much broader audience. Remember, with kindness, everybody wins. Thank you for your support.
I think also it takes somebody in a position perhaps of authority or of, a role model, if you will, to sometimes believe in them before they can believe in themselves. And which is the
Absolutely.
role I'm sure you have played myriads of times. And then just give them the opportunity to blossom, like you said, into their best selves, into their fullest potential. And that's a beautiful thing to witness. I mean, I've had that as a clinical psychologist right here. I've had it many times where people have come in rock bottom, and I'm like, man, you're so much more than an addict. You're so much more than this. And even though at first they don't believe it, slowly they begin to see them the way that I see them, which is, like a gift to this world. And, and it's that transformation is beautiful to witness, you know, and I feel like front row kind of in a lot of ways, maybe giving them the tools, hold them a little bit accountable, but they do the work. And just to see them, where they came in and when they exit, and what a difference, when they start your program, young and innocent and maybe a little shy or whatever, and how they blossom throughout the years as they advance and advance and advance, and how they become contributing members to society. It really is a wonderful thing to witness. It's very rewarding, in a quiet way. It's not a big, in a quiet way, internal in a lot of ways.
So,
Yeah, and I think you're right. Just as far as, sometimes if you just hold a mirror up to someone and reflect back at them, the good parts of themselves, because we forget, especially when we're in difficult situations, and just someone looks at you and sees you, it's a very powerful thing. And in our larger family center, we saw that a lot. This is a whole education facility. We were teaching way more than just martial arts there. It was everything from painting to chess to you name it, we would teach it. But the kids walked around basically looking at knees of adults all the time. So when an adult would drop down and see them, you'd see the kids would just light up. And just the act of being seen was, for a lot of kids, is a kind thing when they're walking through a forest of big people's legs all day. So you're right. It's just those little things like that make such a huge difference.
can you think of an experience, share with us an experience when something like that happened, or maybe, you said you really enjoy seeing people change and grow. Can you think of, is there anybody that stands out that still comes back and talks to you, or that you've seen blossom over the years that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, actually, so there's one that was kind of interesting. This was a boy that I had trained for years, and then he went on and lived his life. And a couple of years ago, his mom connected with me, and she said, "Hey, his name is Josh, and he says he wanted me to give you something." And I hadn't seen him in like a decade, and he had had some difficult stuff growing up, some challenges, familially, and just, but he was always a good kid, but just like most kids, just trying to navigate and figure out who he was going to be in life. So I meet with the mom, and she gives me this little bag, and it had a little box in it and a little note. And the box had a coin in it, and it was a challenge coin from the military. And the note was a thank you note. And the thank you note was about how the things that he had learned, when he was a child ended up allowing him to become one of the most difficult things you can do in the military, which is become a sentinel, which is the ones that guard the tomb of the unknown soldier.
Oh, no way.
There's been like 600 and something in total through all the century or however long it's been that's and it was really cool because in the note he was saying that a lot of the things he learned allowed him to serve as a leader, to help other people that served underneath him become their best, and it absolutely helped him just achieve something that he really didn't think he was even capable of. I mean, so few people actually are able to get through that training and do that, and it requires this just tremendous amount of self-discipline, but also all of these leadership skills that he had developed through the years. And it was just really cool, just in its unexpected nature, to have gotten that. The other one that struck me though was not from a student. It was we had this program called Awesomeness Sticks, and just through the years, I would just notice people just doing work, like they're just giving you coffee or they're checking out your groceries, and they do it with a little bit more attention than they need to. And I just wanted to recognize that. So we created these stickers that just said, thank you for being awesome at what you do. And we
Oh,
would just
wow.
give them to somebody, and they'd wear it, and I had a mom come to me who, she was going in for like a screening, just a medical screening, and they were very busy and overwhelmed. And the nurse had kept checking in with her, saying, just being really kind and updating her and apologizing for the length of time and everything. So when she finally got through her test or whatever it was before she was leaving, she gave this nurse one of these stickers. And the nurse burst into tears, like, and gave her this
Oh,
huge hug. And she's like, I have had the most difficult day with the most difficult people, and you have no idea how much this means to me.
wow.
And it was just this little sticker, that she wore proudly through the rest of her shift and everything. So it was just, another example of just those little things that make such a big difference in people's lives.
It just can't. I can't help but think of not to wax religious, but the scripture that says, "Through small and simple things, great things are brought to pass." And
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah.
that's just another example. It's like the example, the smile you gave earlier. That example, given that little sticker, it makes me think of when I was in college. I worked as a janitor early in the mornings to help pay my way through college, and I always tried to smile at people and just say hi, good morning, how are you doing? And this one day, a lady came in, and I saw her quite often. And I said hi, and she says, "Well, hello." And I says, "Well," I said, "You sure look nice today." And she says, "Oh, well, thank you." And then she smiled back, and then she went on her way. I didn't think anything about it. Well, later, I got done, got to the end of my shift, and went to I punched out, and there's a little cubby hole that each of us were supposed to check before we left. In the middle of that box was an envelope, and I open it up, and there's a note and 10 bookstore bucks, so I could go spend $10 at the bookstore. And this little note says, "Thank you for telling me I look nice today. I was having a really lousy day. It had been a lousy morning, and it started off terrible, and you just totally changed my outlook. Thank you for saying that. I really appreciate it. Enjoy the bookstore bucks." For a college student, 10 bookstore bucks was 10 books. It was great.
Yeah.
And but I didn't even think, I hadn't even thought anything about it. But that simple act of just telling her she looked nice changed her day. And I had class after that, and I think I floated to class because I just felt so good about the fact that I'd been able to have that kind of impact on her. And it's just another example of how simple things.
They cost nothing. They take such little time to do, and yet the impact can last for decades, really, and really change the trajectory of people's not only day, but like you said in the first story, even somebody's life trajectory. Um, how does this experience continue? And for you at least, how do you pay them forward? I mean, you've been on the receiving end of this, you've witnessed these, and you've done them yourself. Give us an example of how perhaps you've paid it forward, either personally or professionally or both.
Yeah, mainly through just as much outreach as possible. And it's actually kind of how we do all of our businesses. Like we don't pay for advertising, we invest in community. So we've donated thousands of hours to school systems locally, just working with the kids and teachers and giving them whatever tools we could that would help them have a better learning experience in school. And just, whether it's through the actual scholastic part, but usually it's more about the person they're being, the social skills, how to just, find a way to be successful in life. And then, the last few years I've done a lot of just connecting with various networks, especially solopreneurs who have recognized that there's a problem that they want to solve to the greater good, and they're not satisfied with the current solutions being offered. So it might be someone like a pharmacist who doesn't want to prescribe meds anymore. They want to help someone, through lifestyle changes, not become diabetic. Like it's just they're seeing some cause that they want to champion, and a lot of times they've got a lot of skills and abilities, but not necessarily understanding how to monetize that, how to create that into a business that's self-sustaining, so that they can, make the difference they want to make without exhausting themselves or going broke, which those of us who've been in business for a long time have probably all done it at least a few times. I know I have. So I just have conversations with them and try to give them some ideas and perspectives. I started writing a blog about people. Just I do an interview with them and then write a blog that they could share onto their site, talking about the good human that they are and why they're doing the work that they're doing. So I like to just donate time, because I think it's the most valuable thing that we have. And if I can put my years of experience, into some kind of a useful format, that's how I've been paying it forward for a long time now.
But Ken, I was going to throw out there, tell us your whole business. Tell us the name of your business, because it's a benefit company, right? It's not a regular corporation. It's a benefit corporation. Am I correct in that?
Oh yeah, so Village Muse is so the brick and mortar company that we formed, the Family Center, that was Quester's Way, and we actually, when the pandemic hit, we closed that, and we have not. It's a huge. This is a 20,000 foot multi-dimensional family center, very very expensive. So we don't have one of those in existence anymore. That's our goal, to scale that. But yes, that was a benefit company. So the idea was, rather than, it's not a not-for-profit, it's a for-profit, but you commit to a portion of your profits being reinvested into the community. So like one of the things we did, we had a program called Food for Thought, where we would take a portion of the proceeds from kids playing in this big park that we had created, and we would call up local schools and find out if there were families who owed school lunch debt, which is very common in our area.
Yes.
And we would just write a check and pay it off. So then the principal would get to call those families and say, hey, your kids can eat. Their debt is cleared. And, and a lot of times we wouldn't even publicize it. We would just, every month we'd pick a different school and we would go and do that. So it was that kind of thing. It's just this reinvestment in the community that you're serving. So yes, so that's how we did it. And my consulting company, Momentum Learning Systems, that's just a basic LLC, because
Okay.
it's small. But again,
Still giving, you're still giving, you're still
Yeah.
giving, you're still doing the for benefit stuff, even though it's not a for benefit
Yeah,
company.
exactly. Any company can do that, and I just feel like it's best, the best thing you can give of people is some of yourself, and some of your earned wisdom and knowledge, and hopefully that will be helpful to them. If nothing else, the connection always has value in and of itself.
I think Ken needs one of those "You're awesome" stickers.
He does. You've been caught being
I'll
kind.
take it.
I know. And we're loud and proud. Ken, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Elia.
I was just going to say, as we're wrapping up, do you have like three pearls of wisdom, three gems for our audience as it relates to kindness? Maybe two or three inspiring messages for them from your experience all these years?
Sure. I think the idea of dropping pebbles and making ripples is a good thing for people to remember, because we're all holding, that metaphor is about holding some kind of contribution that's unique to you. You know, and all you have to do is just open up and let it go. It's gravity will do what gravity does. There will be a point of impact. The ripples will spread. And it's just
I love that.
sometimes we get caught up in just the challenges of our lives and the stories that we tell ourselves, and we forget just the simple value we all have as humans, and just letting go of that value so that there's, someone somehow can benefit from the impact is very, very powerful. So I think that's always been a big one for me. Another one is just, kindness is just something you can choose to be, and you don't have to worry so much about how it's going to manifest. If you just choose to be someone who wakes up in the morning and notices you're awake and just thinking, I'm going to be a kind human today, the way that manifests will just be situational, but it will show up because you started with that kind of mindset. And the third thing is, when you model it, it will resonate with other humans. Just, you don't have to convince them, you don't have to try to get them to do anything. Just by being that, other people will pick up on it. And a lot of times, if they're not being kind, it's because they forgot that they can be. So just existing in that place can be a very, very powerful reminder for people. And it's unthreatening. They're not being preached at or anything like that. They're just being given an invitation to choose to be that way themselves.
And kindness truly is contagious. I mean, if
It
there's,
is.
and I think the three of us here and other people, we're trying to create a pandemic of kindness. Let's make sure that
Yes.
We want
everybody's
to create,
infected.
we want to create a kindemic everywhere we go.
Oh, you gotta patent that word. Say that again. Oh, I like it.
A kindemic.
Pandemic.
I cannot
Oh,
take credit for that word. That's
no,
Nirmala Peters, who was the part of the World Kindness Movement. She's the kindemic lady. I just learned that from her, but it's true. We need to
that is
start.
a great word, though.
It is. We need to start a kindemic and spread this contagion as far and wide as we can, because our world needs it. The reality is, we all want to walk the path of happiness, right? Well, what's the path of happiness paved with? It's paved with love delivered through kindness. In reality, I mean, that's when we receive happiness, that's because we've done things that either made other people happy, or somebody has done something for us that inspired, that gave us those happy feelings. So, Ken, what a blessing to have you on the show today. What an honor to have you here. You've got light in your countenance, in your face, because of the good man that you are, and we appreciate you sharing yourself with our audience. We want to thank our audience for taking the time to listen today, and hope that you enjoyed this. And if you did, please feel free to like and subscribe to our podcast on YouTube, as well as, and if you're inspired and want to support us, you can come out and support us via our Buzzsprout support page and take out a subscription. We want to invite you to please, again, one other thing: if you like this and it resonated with you, please share it. Share it with your friends. Share it with whoever you think might resonate with. The more support we get, the more great guests we can bring, and take this kindemic worldwide. Thank you so much. Take care.
Hold on a sec. How can our audience get in touch with you, or how can they connect with you? Yeah.
Thank you, Ilya.
Probably the easiest way is just contact us right through our website for a little company. It's momentumlearning.info.
Momentumlearning.info. Gotcha.
Yeah. And if they go there, that's just got some of that's where we share a lot of our programs and stuff, but they can just contact via email that way.
Or LinkedIn, I guess. Maybe that's another
Yeah.
way. On LinkedIn, we can find you as well.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn as well. Yeah, I talk to a lot of people through LinkedIn. That's probably the main social media type thing that I do.
And we'll have them on that thread. Randy's really good at making sure that.
Yeah, that'll all be in the description.
Yeah.
That'll all be in the description. Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Ken. Thanks again to our audience. We'll see you next week. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.